This is Infection, the survival podcast, recorded live on Tuesday, April the 19th, 2022, episode 379. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to another edition of Infection, the survival podcast. Infection is your source for the latest information on survival video games. My name is Nick Craig. You can check me out online by visiting my website, nickcraig.com or nickcraig.net. And I must admit, I've been using Twitter a little bit more. You can follow me on there at Nicholas M. Craig. Of course, our website, infectionpodcast.com. As we approach episode 400, don't worry, I'm not alone. Joining me as he does each and every week from the great state of Idaho, Brian with an I, Aldridge. Hello, Brian.
Hello, and hopefully no distortion today. Got a new cable.
Did you happen to see the cover art for last week's episode?
Yes, I did. Yes, it was very, very
no, that was a real screen grab. That wasn't any. That was no Photoshop filters.
I thought you added that.
No, I literally just. I put the video in VLC, and you can scrub by like milliseconds. So I just slowly scrubbed and found a situation where it was just totally jacked up, and I was like, "All right, screenshot, we're good to go." There's our cover art.
That's ridiculous. Oh well. Well, hey, going good now. We'll see. New cable. Hopefully that won't happen again. So if you want to find me, you can get me at Brian Aldridge on Gab, Parler, Getter. Maybe Twitter someday. I'll be back on there. We'll see.
All right.
If Mr. Musk has his way. And then, of course, if you want to check out my blog, biteoftech.com, and go to check out our website, infectionpodcast.com. And if on the right-hand side, you see where it says join our server on Discord, that is a place where if you want to suggest maybe a game that we're not covering or a topic that you think is important for the week, we have a news channel there. You can throw things into that channel and we'll cover those. We also have a bunch of ARC servers running, a lot of things that you can do on there, and it's totally free app, mobile, web-based, and desktop. So check it out. We also have ways you can watch the show during the live show is through Twitch, YouTube, BitChute, and DLive. Now, if you want to listen to the show, we have those after the live show is done, and we upload those. So the lower right-hand side, you can pick whatever platform you prefer. And then if you're going to listen, I really encourage you to go to the particular episode you're watching or listening to and follow the show notes. We've got various links to articles that we referred to throughout the episode. And if there's something that maybe you're listening and you want to see the video referred to, or maybe see an article that we pulled up, you could do that right through those links. If you want to support us, there's the support tab up top or infectionpodcast.com/support. Prime Gaming subs, Humble Bundle, Subscribe Star, lots of ways that you can support the show that will hopefully go towards something in person.
Yes, sooner. Yeah, and if not, it'll just go to Brian and I's video game collection. Yeah. So there you go. Yes, thanks for the support, everybody. All right, we've got a lot of interesting news. I want to start off with this. I want to start off with CD Projekt Red and Witcher 3. We've highlighted this a lot, Brian. This was the first. Now let's set the record. There haven't been many consoles, right? There have been, but there's only been 3 generations of consoles up until the current generation. So it's not the largest pool to look at, but out of the generations, this most recent generation of consoles has done something that's never happened before, where you still have this unbelievable amount of backwards compatibility. You've still got games today. These consoles will have been out 2 years coming up here in a few months, and you've still got games coming out today that are being released on last gen and and the current generation of console. And it's been very interesting to watch that unfold. And you've also got games like Grand Theft Auto that have been out since 2011, have been out for over a decade, that have put out expansions, and there's these, I don't remember what they call it. What do they call it on the Xbox when they make a patch that is just for the next generation? It's called,
I don't remember now.
There's some weird term for it where it's called, it's like enhanced or something like that for the next generation console. It's like, they put in a patch that makes it, maybe it makes the graphics more detailed or ups the frame rate or something like that. Xbox has got a system like that. So you've got a lot of Xbox has got a system that does that. And you've got a lot
Is
of
that
older.
they got like the X and the S symbols, but there's something else they have, and I'm trying to remember,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
X1, X, the enhanced. I think they just call it the enhanced game list, isn't it?
yeah, and it might be
They
something
call
like
it
that.
enhanced.
Yeah, so you've got a lot of older games that have been out that the developers release a enhanced version of it for the next generation console. It's specifically on the Xbox. I'm sure it happens on the PlayStation 2. Well, one of the most one game that has really grown in popularity just over the past couple of years due to that Netflix show, Brian, is The Witcher 3, which happens to be CD Projekt Red, the developers of, I think accurately to say now, the flopped CD Projekt Red, the flopped game Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah.
And they announced this past week that the Witcher 3 next gen upgrade or enhancement is delayed indefinitely.
Yeah.
Until further notice.
And I think that this is more because of the company that was the third party company that was doing this for them. And they got purchased. And I think that that probably has something to do with it. Because in 2020, they got purchased by Embracer Group or Saber Interactive or something that got purchased by this Embracer Group, who they own like 3D Realms, New World Interactive. I'm wondering if there's now competition between these two companies that they're having to walk away because it would cause some issues with some of the new MMO style things that they're looking to move into.
So
that's my thought.
They've announced that they're now having to switch it to in-house development to do the remaining work. Yeah. Backing up on your point that you made, Brian, it was scheduled to be a Q2 release, which we're in Q2 now, right? Isn't the beginning of April Q2? Or is it the end of April? I don't know what it is. I think we're in Q2 now.
Well, whatever.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
It.
Yeah, we're right around that. And they've just announced that it is being delayed until further notice. No indication as to what that means. How far is the development done? We don't really have any new details on that. So it's not going to happen.
And I just think it's odd that they're doing this now, when it's been 2 years since that happened. 2 years since this has had a new company head. Like, what would cause them to do this now unless there was an issue, that came up, or they realized like this just can't continue this way? Intellectual properties, there could be something that is valuable to that other company, and they're just a contractor for CD Projekt Red. So that I can understand why you'd want to go in house, but this, so close to the release date, that's what's so confusing. When it was supposed to be released very soon. It could be that once they figure out the tools and kind of finish up the last parts of the development, maybe able to be done. Maybe it's not that far out, but as you said, there's very few details, and it's an until further notice type of notice, which is very little notice.
And you almost get to the point, and I will admit I've not played The Witcher. I haven't watched the Netflix show. It's not my style of game, and I just so maybe I'm off base on this. But at what point, Brian, is it like, all right, you've delayed it till it was supposed to come out Q2, which would have been about a year and a half after the console launch. Now you've delayed it indefinitely. Is it even worth spending development time on at this point? Because realistically, you're not looking at, this is not going to, if it was going to be out in 3 or 4 months, they wouldn't have said until further notice. They would have said, that's coming out in a few end of summer or beginning of the winter or holidays. They didn't say anything like that. Now that could truthfully be because they just don't know yet. They haven't dug into it. But from my vantage point, especially with CD Projekt Red's track record, it took them over a year to get out a Cyberpunk patch that should have been done day one. To me, it just almost seems like a fruitless effort at this point. Are people really chomping at the bit this bad to play The Witcher 3 on next-gen consoles? You can already play it on PC and it looks great. You're talking about next-gen. Yeah. How much time and how much resources are going to be dumped into this game that's old for it to come out 2.5 years after the console launch? I don't even know if it makes sense.
On the next Witcher and getting that to where it's ready for the current console. Is that the one that they said they're doing under Unreal Engine 5? I'm trying to remember if that was.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess for Witcher fans, it's probably disappointing. For me, as an outside consumer, that's a little disappointed with CD Projekt Red.
Yeah.
This seems, and again, it's not their fault that this third-party studio may have gotten purchased. You don't blame them, but it just gets to the point where why? I mean, I hate to say it, but why bother? Like, just at this point, who cares? Well, you can still, by the way, you can still play it on the next gen console. It's still playable. Yeah. You just don't get all of the enhancements that it might get using some of the next gen hardware. It's still a very pretty game.
Probably RTX, and
HDR, HDR, some of the stuff that next gen can offer. So the game is still more than playable. I don't know. I don't know. It seems kind of at this point kind of stupid to me.
Yeah, and we'll see where they end up going with it. Let's talk for a minute about Rockstar or was it actually GTA? Let's not go to Rockstar, but GTA. They've been talking about. There was a leak today. I don't have it in the notes, I don't think, for that. But there was a leak today of them talking about a remaster of GTA 5 for PC.
Oh my god!
so I didn't put it in the notes for us to pull up, but that just reminded me of that. I came across something, and they were saying that there's a remaster for GTA 5 that was leaked through whatever thing, that it's going to be coming out pretty soon, which makes sense if they're still ways out on the next one. I think it's more of because of their GTA Online. I bet they're kind of bringing everything to where GTA 5 will be enhanced, and the graphics for GTA Online won't be that far off from the new graphics, of the new one. I think they're coming up with a middle ground to me. So
they're claiming that the GTA 5 remaster, and this is according to the leak, is going to be a marginal upgrade from the previous version of the game, but it is a better version of the game, even if it's not necessarily worth a premium price tag. So no indication as to what the details on it are. And the heads up was that it was recently re-rated by the ESRB, and I guess something leaked through that. Interesting.
And then, do you want to go to this other Rockstar news, which is kind of a sad day for Rockstar?
Sure.
In my opinion. All right. Well, now Rockstar cut transphobic content from GTA 5 and GTA Online. You say, well, why is that a sad day? Because until now, Rockstar, I felt like, was able to make fun of everyone equally, so no one got offended. And now they're starting to pull content that people are offended by, even if it's stuff that's not. It's just as crazy as all the other stuff you see in there. They're starting to, because there was an open letter written to Rockstar asking them to remove this. They have removed it. Not that for me, whether or not that's in there doesn't matter. It's the precedent that's set that if you don't want to be treated differently, take a joke like everyone else, right? Honestly, on some of these things, because this Rockstar has been very even about making fun of everyone in every single way. And then you're saying, but you can't make fun of us.
But I want to make sure that when you say transphobic content, your initial impression is, okay, this is something that is defaming individuals who are transgender. And what was actually removed was the drag queens that were spawning outside of the Cockatoos strip club within the game, which I don't know
which happens in real life,
which happens which is all over the place. I mean, if you go to
of course we don't want to talk about it.
I mean, I'm sure if you go to Vegas or San Francisco or LA and look at and go outside of a strip club, you will probably see
Seattle during PAX. I mean, you could get a little bit of everything.
You might go to you might be able to see some of that. So it's a little misleading when when you think transphobic content, you're thinking of something that is
they're bashing them.
Of course, that's what I think. If you're being called a transphobe, you're attacking somebody based on their gender. But that's not what was happening in the game at all.
Gamer. I mean, this is PC Gamer though writing this. So of course they're going to. If you don't say that they're the best thing on earth, then of course you're transphobic to them. Here, I just think they're making themselves a bigger target by trying to be different than everyone else in this. Because who's going to go here next? Are they going to start saying, well, I don't like how my race is portrayed in this. I don't like how my, whatever the nerds, whatever it is that they make fun of pop culture. They make fun of everything. How far are they going to cater to this?
I don't like how
many.
I don't like how Kate Upton's boobs look on the loading screen.
Uh-huh.
I demand.
So I mean,
I demand damages.
demands.
So
this is something that for me wasn't. I was kind of like, okay, why? And it just made me sad that they're going through such work for something that really wasn't even. I mean, they. What's different in the game about this? It's giving them a place in the game, just like everyone else has a place. It's got every kind of. It's like real life put in here in a silly way. This is what it is. It makes everything extreme.
And it's unfortunate because Grand Theft Auto has been kind of the saving grace of this. I mean, you're talking about a game that gives you the ability to, mass murder people in the streets, blow things up, punch people, rob people, kill people. You're talking about a game that's got so many so many undertones, because let me remind you, and this is for our more left-leaning audience, I'm sorry, but I'll remind you, it is a video game, right? We're not talking about real life. We're not talking about a simulator. We're talking about a video game. I cannot believe that mass killing people in the streets, driving your car through crowds of people like you can do in GTA, is not so outrageous that these various groups, these stupid advocacy groups are so outraged about trannies outside of a strip club in the game, yet there doesn't seem to be any outrage about the violence that can be committed,
the mass murder, and
which, by the way, doesn't bother me, because again, it's a video game, and it's
a video game.
Who gives a shit? Yeah, exactly. Like, who gives a shit? So that is very unfortunate for GTA. And I'll tell you what, Brian, and I'll stand by this. If they want to continue down this stupid ass road and start doing this stuff as the next GTA comes out, you won't catch me buying it or playing it.
Yeah, well, and you're going to catch people that they'll find it not as fun. If you tame it down, the reason they like playing it is because you can do anything you want, and it's extreme and it's silly. Everything is just blown out of proportion and it's silly. That's what people enjoy. If you make it a real life simulator, people aren't going to want to play it.
Yeah.
They want to do something that's bigger than what they can do in real life. And, this was part of it. So, all right, that was Rockstar. Do you have a preference on where we go after this? We've got a lot of different areas we can go to.
Actually, yeah, because we should have done this at the beginning, but I forgot about it. Cyberpunk 2077, we were talking about CD Projekt Red. They've announced that they have a new an expansion. There were supposed to be expansions with the game. That they've got a big expansion coming out, not this year. I'll remind you, we're only in April, but in 2023. When in 2023, we don't know. But this is what they've announced. They put out what they've got planned for the rest of 2022, which includes a variety of things: development work on the expansion. This is for CD Projekt Red. This is for CD Projekt Red as a whole. Development work on a new Witcher-based game on Unreal Engine 5. So there you go. That backs up what you were saying. Further support of Cyberpunk, and then they go into some other things, the next-gen version of Witcher. So an update coming out in 2023 for Cyberpunk 2077, which I really should do another playthrough of or finish a playthrough of. I just have not had any interest at all in doing that.
And it really depends what it is. Perhaps if this expansion DLC opens up housing options, makes it more of an open world, something like that, that would be cool.
Well,
because the one thing that kind of draws me away from it is it doesn't really feel like an open world like GTA does to me.
Well, and they did in their recent update that they did, which was kind of, I think they called it the 2.0 patch or so, the 1.0. I don't know. It was the big patch that they did. It did add that. Now you can rent. I think there's 3 or 4 different apartments or condos or something that you can rent. So they've started to add some of that stuff, but it's, again, day late and a dollar short. Should have been done when the game came out, especially because it got delayed so damn much.
Yeah, and that's where it'll be interesting if people come back to it, because so many people were hyped about it in the beginning, really let people down, and then now they've been building it up, and I think it's kind of close to the game that should have started at, kind of like No Man's Sky did, but this for them. They have an opportunity with these expansions. They need to make it to where it's big enough things. It's just not, oh, here's new cars, here's new weapons, here's some new characters. It needs to be expansions to the game itself to make it feel bigger, because I think that's what people are expecting, just a giant world. But a lot of it, there's no point in traveling around. I mean, you go from one place to the other, it doesn't feel, you can't go into shops. It just doesn't feel as real. And I think that's kind of, for me, what was a letdown from the whole thing.
Well, I think
so hopefully they update that.
I think they bit off more than they could chew.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully they figured it out by now.
I've got a.
You want? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, do you want to talk about Roblox, or do you have a?
Yes, you read my mind. That is exactly what I wanted to talk about. Roblox. I couldn't help but read I couldn't help but look at some of the notes in here. The headline over on PC Gamer: Roblox CEO to pocket $234 million over the next 5 years. That's according to SEC filings that recently came out. This guy is making $500,000 a year. And it is just how his payout is going to be. And
one of the biggest, was this like the biggest game or one of the biggest games? I don't know which one it is, but it is one of the biggest games in the world right now. Right?
Yeah, and I'll give this. I'll give a little bit of. This is a tough, because you look at this article, and of course there are the undertones, like it says in here. Talking about CEOs and making a whole bunch of money, and that's always a bad thing.
Yeah, the whole they hate people making money thing.
But
PC Gamer,
you're talking about the CEO of the most popular and one of the most highest grossing video games in the world.
Yeah.
Isn't this what you want? Isn't this how you incentivize your CEO, your president, whatever it might be, to really put the axe to the grindstone and make something that's popular and people want to play, and make sure he's on his team's ass to get the things done to make the game as good as possible? I mean, isn't this why you have a good, strong leader?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if he's a big, strong leader, but obviously he's been doing something right, because they've been making money hand over fist. And there's been minimal amount of crazy, there's something after this that's been a little bit of, I guess, negative press. And it might actually affect them financially, but we'll see. But I think a lot of this, personally, we don't let our kids play it because there's just no control. There's no parental controls. There's no limits. And I think that's why the kids like it so much, because once you're in there, there's very little the parents can do to actually prevent you from doing anything in the game. And, the kids love it. But I think I'm surprised that they make so much money when that there's so little parental controls or anything preventing their kids from doing horrible things in the game. I mean, I don't know if do you want to talk about the next?
Yeah, I do. I just want to correct something. His base salary is $500,000 a year, and then he gets paid an incentive. So in 2020, he made almost $7 million. So a base salary of $500,000, which is a unbelievably good salary. But then it's based on, which is how it should be. This is exactly what you want. Now, for a CEO of a game like this, let's be honest, $500,000 is not a huge salary for this position. Yeah. Now, I understand.
Well, especially, didn't he create this game originally? I don't remember if he was the founder.
I'm not sure if, he was one of the founders. And believe me, I'm not saying that $500,000 is not a lot of money. If I was making even a quarter of that, it would be great. The point is, for this game, for its success, a $500,000 base salary,
and the level of responsibility, because that's the thing, is a lot of it, people don't realize the more money you make is because the more responsibility and risk you have on you.
Just to put this in perspective, you talked earlier about Elon Musk and Twitter. Members on the Twitter board, most of them are making $250,000 a year. They're making about $250,000 a year to sit on the board of Twitter. This guy is the CEO
probably once a month or something like that.
This guy is the CEO of one of the most popular played video games in the world, and his base salary is only $500,000. And then it all gets paid out in compensation for performance goals, which is great. So he takes home $7 million in 2020. Congratulations. This is it working.
And if the game wasn't doing well, he would bring home $500,000.
$500,000, exactly.
That's the difference. His minimum is $500,000. So
which again, in this position, is not a lot of money at all. You've got a lot of people that are making $250,000, $350,000 a year doing a whole hell of a lot less than this guy is. Just laying that out.
And that's why I always think it's funny when you have people in politics that are yelling that, oh, the CEO needs to make as much as the person at the floor. And it's like, well, first of all, why would anyone take any risk and responsibility and work harder? The reason that these people are here is because this is their life. This is pretty much all they do, is talk about these and make sure that whatever it is, they know this company in and out. And if it were that easy of a job, guess what? Other people would be doing it, because it's based on how well you do. It's how much money you bring in. If you don't bring in a lot of money, guess what? You won't be at this position in the company very long. So,
yeah. What's the other Roblox news you've got? Reality.
All right. So I came across this Roblox game claiming to have Kim Kardashian's sex tape was discovered by her son. And Kim Kardashian was not happy
because she wasn't.
So she went to the company, and I'm not going to quote what exactly she said, but she did say, she threatened them at the end of this conversation, saying, "I have all the time, all the money, and all the resources to burn them all to the effing ground." And so she told Roblox. So
while that might, so and I think, Brian, this comes down to what you just mentioned about how this game is literally the definition of a sandbox, and you can do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, and you're letting your kids run around. And they said, "Oh, but this was a game created by a user and then uploaded, and when it was taken off within a certain amount of time." Well, first of all, it was called Kim's new sex tape. Why is the word sex able to be in the title, first of all? And I'm sure they're working on something that's able to check videos and make sure. But why are they allowing any video to be put in these games as well, if they're allowing it to be open to the public for these kids? This is, as I said, this is why we don't let, my wife and I do not let our kids play this game.
Now,
we just don't anymore.
A spokesperson for Roblox said on Friday that they confirmed the existence of the game. So there was somebody built the game inside of Roblox, a mini game called Kim's new sex tape, or whatever you just called it, but noted that the referenced video was never available inside of the game and banned the community developer involved with the incident.
Okay, and I think what it was like some knockoff, like fake one, like someone where they're acting in it or something. But either way, they're allowing porn. She was like, "Oh, but it wasn't the right one. Your kid only saw fake porn. Oh, it's okay." I mean, what are they? Are we supposed to be? Oh, well, you're fine then. Wasn't the real one. It was a fake one. We're okay. But
this is something.
The kids are running and getting porn in your platform, and that's been skipped over in this conversation.
Well, and this is something that I struggle with, Brian. Obviously, I'm not a parent, so I can only imagine the control that you and your wife as parents want to have. It's a tough.
Oh yeah.
I can't really I can't really draw a comparison to
relate to it. Yeah,
I can't relate to it at all. It's just it's like you talked about the issues with the Nintendo Switch and some of the parental controls. Yeah. I can't relate with that at all, but I would imagine it's got to be incredibly frustrating. And by the way, Roblox is available. This game is not. This is not just a game where it's like, oh, you've got to have a gaming computer. No, kids play this on their iPad, and that's predominantly where this is played. Yeah,
Xbox, phone and iPad. I mean, it's available in all these different platforms, and people can go and make their own games and load them into this with very little oversight. And imagine if an adult goes in there and really wants to have some fun with this. Imagine things they can create that are much more advanced than what these kids can create. And they could put all kinds of things in there. It's just there's very little oversight to the whole thing.
Now, what I will say is, I am sure, and I don't know this to be the case because I've never played the game, fully admitted. There's got to be a community reporting system. So if somebody is making something that is, obviously there's a report system for that. And this is not the first time there's been any sort of controversy with something inside of Roblox. But Brian, they just seem to keep chugging along, and I've got to give them some credit for that. I'm sure they've got it. They've got community standards. They've got community guidelines. If they find people that are outside of those guidelines are not following them, they seem to be dealt with pretty swiftly. This is the tough double-edged sword of a sandbox. You get so many cool things from a sandbox game that has propelled this game to literally number one. But at the same time, you have bad actors that may try and, take advantage of people or do. I mean, what was a story a couple weeks ago about a girl who got, not a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago, a girl got abducted through Roblox, and she only got found because she was able to message her mother through the app. It was like a 14-year-old girl or something. So, I mean, there's a lot of fucked up people that use these services, no question about it. But they seem to be continuing to chug along with it.
And that's where I really hope, because I wouldn't mind if there was a way I could say only approved maps or only whatever content, put some sort of limitations on it. I would let them play this game. Now, I wouldn't let them spend money in the game, but I would let them play the game.
Now, hold on a second. Hold on. You wouldn't allow them to spend money in the game.
Not in Roblox.
How much did you invest in one of your mobile apps?
I mean, thousands, I know, but hey, I made that money.
That's not here nor there.
But yeah, I mean, I make that money, so how can you get word about it?
Yeah, exactly. Brian, what's the old Donna Summer song? You work hard for the money. I mean, yeah,
exactly. But the thing is, with Roblox, you're not really getting anything for it. Like, you're buying things inside of little mini games and stuff that doesn't carry over through the rest of the games. That's why looking at what they are offering to sell them, I don't see no value in it. I see very little value in the Fortnite skins, but hey, at least they're well made. The things in Roblox are not well made enough to spend hundreds of dollars on skins. I think that look like they're Minecraft level or worse.
Yeah, I can't relate. Never played the game. Never watched anybody play it. The only conversations we've ever had about it have been here on the show. So, yeah,
it's incredibly basic,
and it's also incredibly popular, which is very interesting. I mean,
it's basic in the fact that they create maps. They're not creating big, huge worlds. I don't know what the limits are, but the maps mostly that I see are basic, and they're very simple games. Like, you have a place where you go buy a car and it starts generating money. They're like little silly mini games that kids are playing, which is fine. But they need to have some sort of control if that's who their primary audience is going to be. Before the government steps in and does it for them, that's more of my concern. If they leave it unfettered and they don't try to control themselves, which I've seen just no emphasis on them doing it at all, I'm worried about the government coming in and then making them do it, and that's not what I want. I'd rather have them do it themselves before it gets to be a problem. Because once this becomes more and more cases of children getting abducted over this and seeing porn and having access to things they're not supposed to see, enough of those, you get the right parents mad, and you're going to turn around and have a legislature doing something. And that, of course, always ends up with them not only affecting Roblox, but other things as well. And I'd rather not them start that process.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to piss off Kim Kardashian. Yeah, I definitely don't want to do that. I'm obviously a big fan of her.
Got all the money.
She has all of the money. Big fan of her show. Watch it daily. Let's turn the conversation over to Microsoft here for a few minutes, Brian. Article here headlined, Microsoft reportedly considering placing advertisements in free-to-play Xbox titles. This goes back to the old, what the hell were they called? The old Xbox arcade titles, which was back on the Xbox 360. They were free games, and they were called Xbox Arcade. The one that I remember playing was the Doritos Crash Course. That was one of the most popular Xbox arcade games. They were free. So now I don't think the advertisements are necessarily going to be a pop-up ad like single women in your area or something like that. Yeah. But it will probably be branded advertising. Cars, drinks,
I bet
food,
you there'll be
things like that.
Advertising placed into the world, and then I bet you sometimes you'll probably see a video. So this is racing and things like that. You'll probably see videos popping up like you do in the real world of advertisements here and there, and it'll just be things that people that have paid for these ads. And it's going to be a curated list. It's not going to be where, go pay $20 and maybe like Facebook, you'll get your ad to pop up in front of 100 players.
Or in the case you pay Facebook, they tell you the ad got served, and damn well it didn't, and nobody
saw it. So I think with this, it'll be about quality ads from quality advertising.
Yeah, I mean, Microsoft already has an ad marketplace for Bing, so it can't be too hard to retool this. And they give an example saying in a racing game, such as billboards, it's schemes similar to what mobile developers do. I'm okay with this, and while some folks are probably go, if we want to have this conversation about the metaverse, Brian, right? Oh, the metaverse. You're going to close your eyes and envision the metaverse. It's not how you're going to pay for it. The real world that we live in every day is full of advertising. If it's not somebody's bumper sticker, it's billboards, it's signs, it's marquees. It's all over the place. So do we have this, like, we hate advertising online. We hate free advertising. We hate product placement, yet we drive around day in and day out, and we are littered with it all over the real world, and I don't ever hear anybody bitching and complaining about that. This is only the next step. As these things become more immersive, as this becomes AR, VR, metaverse, whatever the hell you want to call it, this is the next progression. There weren't billboards back in the early 1900s. They didn't really, I'm sure there were, but as commercialization went through the 20th century, billboards.
Well, they had signs pointing to something up here, come get this. But advertising has expanded and gotten better, I think. And I think this is a better version. Would you rather have it where it stops and plays a 30-second ad like YouTube does? No. Or would you like it to where the advertisements are ingrained into the environment? So you're playing the game, and this is a free-to-play game, by the way, as you said. So you're not getting this game. You're not paying for this experience. Or you could pay, this is the beauty of these kind of things, where probably you could pay 99 cents or a couple dollars, and they will remove the ads for you if you really want to. But get it to where the ad experience is so seamless, which kind of the downside of that is they're kind of brainwashing you with various things sometimes. But I think if you can get this ad experience where you get away from the constant ads and it's something that is just a part of the game, people will appreciate it more. Because I personally do not like 30 seconds wait and watch a video. Watch that video. Because I don't, very rarely do the videos even mean anything to me. You're just waiting for the video to be done. I think that this is going to be more impactful for the people playing it. Because it's going to be subliminal, which is probably what the advertisers want. They'll just, I know that name. What do I know that name?
You just stole it right out of my mouth, and I've been doing a lot of political work, and subliminal advertising or passive advertising is very, very popular. I mean, you drive by, like, for example, does Coke or Pepsi need to have a billboard in your local town? No, everybody knows what Coke or Pepsi is, but you put up enough of them, and you walk into a grocery store and you go, "Damn, I'm thirsty." Oh. Well, I just, look at that. Pepsi right there on the shelf. You just passed a billboard. It's subliminal. You purchase it. Mission accomplished. That's why they spend money on advertising. So this is only the next progression. So anybody that's going to be outraged about this, you are going to be in a world of hurt if you're a big fan of the metaverse, AR, or VR, because it's just going to be real life, which is littered with advertising. I mean, literally everywhere. And now it's going to be in your video games. And again, for a free-to-play game with a billboard or a blimp or just and
radio.
Have
a working radio ad.
This happens on paid television too. Like
you can all the time. Heavily.
Like Netflix, for example. Apple had a big paid advertising campaign inside of House of Cards. They all used MacBooks. They all used iPhones. It was very well documented that Apple paid for those product placements. I believe Mercedes-Benz did the same thing. That was a show I paid for, Brian. I paid a Netflix subscription to view access, and they were also subliminally advertising me these products. No outrage there.
If you're comfortable with seeing that, like you see those all the time, when you go to the store, you'll feel the most comfortable picking that up.
But why is there no outrage?
Because you feel like you already know it.
But why is there outrage?
Because people don't think of it as it's subliminal messaging. It is brainwashing to a level, but we've gotten used to it. We've exchanged brainwashing for being able to have a shorter commercial in a show. True. Or for them to get a little more extra funds towards their television program that they're working on. Outside of the subscription, you're already paying for Netflix, which they just raised here in the last week or two, I think.
Yeah. So it's interesting. This is the way it's going to go. This is not this is going to happen and spread across the entire market. So if you're pissed off about it, well, then maybe it's time for you to disconnect off the internet because you're not going to like where things are heading.
That's true. Hey, let's talk really quickly about the Activision Blizzard fiasco that's happened with Kotick, right? Kotick. Kotick, there we go. The Activision Blizzard has said that they have not negotiated any kind of like future or ending or anything with his contract. And they said they will not be doing it until the approval and the execution of the merger agreement and the transaction. Which,
yeah, why would they?
It's not there until it's approved. It's not their company. Like, people are saying, you need to do something about it now. Until we are owning of the company. Because why would they kick out the president of the company then and have it not be approved? And they kicked out a president of a company they haven't even purchased. How can you do that?
This is in an SEC filing that became public. Silly. It says, no discussion or negotiations regarding post-closing employment arrangements with Microsoft occurred between Microsoft and Mr. Kotick prior to the approval and execution of the merger agreement and the transaction completed thereby, or have occurred subsequently to such approval or execution through the date therefore, or hereof. Why would you negotiate something? Why would you negotiate a contract on something that hasn't happened yet?
Exactly. And this is where these people are just still so mad, raging about all of this. And it's just, they don't stop and think there's process to all this, and possibly whether or not they're going to kick him out in the first place. Because if they know that he had nothing to do with the actual things that took place, and that when things came up to his level of seeing them, he dealt with them in the appropriate way. If there's a track record of that, then you keep him. If there's a track record of documented proof of him doing something wrong, then get rid of him.
This deal is scheduled not to even be completed until next year. As of right now, Activision Blizzard is their own company trading on the stock market publicly. If Microsoft is openly talking about firing employees for a company they do not own, you can make huge claims with the SEC or the FTC. I don't know where it would fall under, about stock manipulation. There's a whole bunch of legal trouble that Microsoft could get into negotiating employment terms for a company that they're not going to own for at least another 14 or 15 months at the earliest. Like, the idea that this conversation would be happening right now, and it would even be appropriate to have this conversation, is retarded. There is absolutely no reason that Microsoft would have this conversation now. And if anything, it opens them up to serious liability. You can't talk about firing people for a company you don't own. I mean, that's insanity.
And I want to point out one more thing, because I'm going to read you the beginning paragraph of this article, because this is supposed to be news. This isn't an opinion piece. This is supposed to be an actual news article with research written for this news site, right? So while it is all but assured that if the Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard goes through, CEO Bobby Kotick will get to flutter away on a parachute lined with platinum golden kitten tears. Well, it still isn't clear whether Kotick will remain as a CEO. Like, what is up with? I mean, how about reporting the facts? I mean, you can give some opinion, in my opinion, but it's just all the writing for most of these tech gaming blogs is opinion piece anymore. How are you supposed to separate opinion from fact when they're just throwing an opinion through the whole thing and not stating, this is my opinion?
This is especially disappointing because this article comes from Massively OP, who have used a lot over the past couple of years, and normally they're pretty good. And Brian, I'll tell you this, the place to get opinion and not news, or to get news and not opinion, is Wilmington's Morning News.
I know.
I mean, that's where you get it. But no, and joking aside, this is very disappointing for them because they've been a very good source of just, here's the tweet, here's the statement from the company, read it, and then we'll give you an opinion.
I just feel like our places are dwindling away where we can really get news, because Massively OP was one that I felt like a go-to, because PC Gamer sometimes can be here or there. But then you've got Kotaku and all these other ones that are just a mess. You can't get a single article on there written by one of their staffers that's not just thrown together opinion based on mostly senselessness. Half of it is all just them getting worked up about something that's not even reality, and then raging about that for 2 or 3 weeks, but it never actually happened. And then finally it comes out, oh yeah, but that didn't happen. Here's our retraction that we'll put, mention here somewhere that nobody's ever going to see. But then there's still all the videos and the outrage of people thinking that half these things are true. That's how they get these things rolling.
Microsoft never said that they were firing Bobby Kotick. That was never said in any of the all these other people. Yeah, it was never discussed by Microsoft at all. This goes back to managing expectations, Brian. We saw this all of the time with games like H1Z1 and everything else. Yeah. You have the Reddits and Twitter and social media run amok, reading into things that do not exist, and then are all Pikachu face shocked when it doesn't come to fruition. But it was never indicated that this was going to happen. Will he step down as the CEO once Microsoft acquires it? Maybe. Might he not step down as the CEO? Maybe. Who the hell knows? I don't know what Microsoft's inner structure is. Who knows?
And aren't these demands? I think they're mostly coming from that video, the Gamers Alliance or whatever. It's like they're these type of groups that are sitting there raging about what's happening at Blizzard, Activision Blizzard, and they're some of them I don't know how are actually real employee support groups, but they're just saying we demand that he be removed. Who are you to say that? First of all, you're demanding that they remove him for what? Well, obviously, it does have some effect because look at GTA.
That's why they demand it, Brian, because it works.
If they stood up, exactly. If they would have stood up for themselves, all these companies saying, we're not going to give in to a silly, if there's something legitimate, we'll look at that. But silly things just because you want to get worked up about something that's not even reality, quit catering to it. That's why they do it, because they get results and it makes them feel good because they get to put it on their Twitter profile. We changed the world. Okay, great. You did. Now look at all, half of that company, those employees don't have a job. They found it's better to employ other people rather than your little group. There's downsides to that.
There you go. I couldn't agree more.
All right, let's talk. Let's move on to communism. You want to talk some communism here for a few minutes?
I'm a big fan of communism in China. Go ahead.
All right, so let's talk about we got some China things here. China has banned live streams of unapproved games now. So it's not that you can't just play certain games, but you can't see live streams of games that they don't approve of anymore. So this is them cracking down on the influence on minors because they feel, sure, there's some reality to it. Their kids are probably not doing the things that their kids did when I was a kid. A lot more kids were outside, but that's when we started getting video games when I was little. That was some of the first ones. But here they're starting to ban and block some of the different ways. For instance, Elden Ring, that was a big hit on the live streaming platforms. It reached 17.1 million cumulative daily average viewers in its first week, but it's not approved for sale.
It's not approved for streaming.
And so, but it's also not approved for sale, so it won't be approved for streaming. So, so if they enforce this license, that means that if it's not something that can be distributed, they have to get a license before it can be distributed or streamed in China. And if it's not being able to be distributed, I doubt it's going to be able to be streamed because they're blocking it for a reason. So this will be, they're taking steps to block all these foreign games, which they've done. And now it's streaming services. We'll see how far they keep going from here. Also, Tencent, they have this Game Boost app that they use. And it was, I think, allowing Chinese players to access foreign games because I think it was some sort of a speed boost thing. But Tencent is blocking the latest game speed booster apps so that they can't allow that foreign access. So they're trying to lock down everything with video games in China.
What I find so odd about this is Tencent is very closely aligned with the Chinese government. So was this an exploit?
They're pretty. I think it was. I think they got cracked down on. Well, I don't know if it was an exploit or now they could play them. It wasn't just streaming or anything, but I think it was kind of like a VPN thing that allowed them to do this built into it.
But doesn't that sound odd to you? Because I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Is you've got a company that is, you could make the argument owned by the Chinese government, or at least very heavily controlled. Why would they have even had something like this in the first place? Is my question.
Well, and I think now they're going more to the level of even blocking them from being able to use the game speed boosting apps on anything that's not approved. Because before you could launch them and use them on various games, and it was letting them do things. But now you can't even launch and use it with a game that's not approved by them. So I mean, they're locking down the app pretty heavily. Now, there are some people, we say, well, how do people prevent this? David, is it Jaff? He's the guy who created Twisted Metal, a game that back in the 90s, if I remember correctly, maybe early 2000s, was a popular game.
Mm-hmm.
He said he rejected a $100 million 10-cent deal because he said, I want nothing to do with them. Good, bravo to that guy. Finally, someone who is choosing morals over money. And he said he doesn't want anything to do with because he does not agree with the views of the Chinese government.
Good for him.
Standing up for if you want to stop this stuff from happening, how do you do it? You put your money where your mouth is. Personally, my wife and I, we cut back on spending money at certain places because they're primarily funding China stuff, right? I don't agree with it, and that's my choice. I can do it, and same with this guy. Good for him, because look at what brought down H1Z1 in the end. China, really. They put all their money in the China basket and realized, they're very whimsy when it comes to whether or not you get to play a video game there. And now they're all getting locked out. So here, he didn't want to do anything with them. He said, no, thank you, because you're 10 cent and I want nothing to do with you. He says, I was courted by a Chinese company and I said, no, thank you. Because you're 10 cent and I want nothing to do with you, is what he said.
Amen.
So, and of course, people on Twitter were calling him a liar, and of course not. So he brought some documentation.
Yeah, screenshots of emails.
Actually, screenshots of it happening. He's like, yeah, I don't lie, dude. Here it is. So, maybe some people are waking up. And then one final thing, I know we're running out of time here pretty soon, but there was a thing put out where they say that 600 million Axie Infinity crypto was stolen, but it was pulled by North Korea. So the FBI and the Treasury Department traced the theft to North Korea-based hackers group known as Lazarus Group. So more governmental hacking, and that's one way that they make, we don't give them as much aid because we're trying to prevent them from making nuclear weapons, but they find their own ways to get money out of us, and this is one of the ways. They use hackers that sit there and try to collect.
This is one of these.
This is that cute one. Remember the cute little game that we talked about?
This a couple weeks ago. Yeah. So
the Lazarus Group ended up being North Korea, according to the government. We'll see. Because we didn't know. I don't think we knew at the time who it was. There was like some people, but it looks like that is a North Korea. Now, people would say, well, because I thought there was maybe someone in the UK, or there was somebody who was young. Was that this one where there was a young person who was pulled into some of this? That was a different one.
That was something else in.
Okay, so this one I don't think they had said exactly who it was, or if they did say Lazarus Group, like I didn't know who that was at the time. But yeah, this is $600 million in March, and it ended up being North Korea doing this. So,
I want to round out on this, Brian, and it's not in the show notes, and I'll put it in here. It's something I wanted to talk about. For the first time in a decade, Netflix has lost subscribers amid growing competition and account sharing. Globally, in the first quarter of this year, it lost subscribers, which is the first time that has ever happened since the platform has been offering streaming, which has been well over a decade. The company ended the first quarter with 200,000 fewer subscribers than it had in the fourth quarter, and missed its own projection of they were looking to add 2.5 million new subscribers. They ended up losing 200,000 in the overall numbers. And then now they're have updated projections, claiming that they're planning on losing 2 million global subscribers in Q2. So the days of Wild West streaming like Netflix has been doing, is they've just been jacking up the price over and over again. It looks like somebody's finally coming home to collect the check, Brian, and it's subscribers canceling the service and saying, you know what? I can't justify spending $19 a month for this service.
That's the thing is now also they're doing another price increase now. So this isn't going to help. They're losing subscribers, and they're announcing another price increase right after that. So I think I'm trying to see when this one goes into effect. They had one where
it was in January.
I think they had one in January 2022.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the one we're still dealing with. So that's got to be what's impacting their numbers so heavily. I have it, and then it goes through my cell phone provider pays for most of it, and then I pay for an upgrade to the HD.
Gotcha.
So it makes it a little more affordable. But I don't really watch things on it that often anymore. My wife will watch things on it, but I don't turn on Netflix anymore. So I would be to a point where I'd be fine turning it off personally. But I know a lot of people, that's their primary source of video, primary source of entertainment. Enough of these hikes, and I think people will start to drop it because the price has gone higher and higher, multiple dollars. Something that started at $7.99 for a basic plan in 2014. Now it's $10. $2 doesn't seem much, but the standard, or that's for the basic. The standard went from $7.99 the year before that up to almost $16 now. That's almost we're looking at an $8 increase. That's about a double. We're right around a double price increase. Premium has gone up $9 in that time, from $11.99 to $19.99. And you could say, well, look at all these videos. I think people are finding other methods. Look at Roku, for instance. Roku offers a ton of streaming opportunities. It's not all these exclusives, but they give live TV on there now. They have a full set of streaming stuff that doesn't cost anything per month. If you just want to have a bunch of movies and TV shows, there's a lot of options that I think there weren't there April of 2013, let's say, as conveniently as Netflix
there wasn't
at
any.
the time. Exactly. Now it's getting there, because when I talk, I remember the whole thing with the streaming device when I was at Google. At the time, people don't realize that didn't exist at the time. There were people made some streaming devices, but like there weren't a bunch of streaming devices to stream. That's what made Netflix so popular, was having something to easily stream to your TV and get away from having these discs and having DVD players and Blu-ray players and all this. Now, I think it's transformed beyond that to where people have access to a ton of content and they don't need one portal, and they can get it fairly minimal ads. And Netflix Netflix has tons of talk about product placement. Netflix does that all the time. They make tons of extra money on these things. Now they're expanding into video games. They're trying to make themselves relevant, but I think that they're going to hit a point where people don't care about their exclusives, and all these other people are going to make their own exclusives, and it's just going to be a mess for a while.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like over-the-air television to where you have these locked number of networks. It's going to eventually settle somewhere, but I think it's going to be, I don't know if Netflix is going to end up with it if they keep playing all these games, because there's a lot of back and forth with them. People join their service and then go away. Can they handle that flux constantly?
Yeah, well, and they've been able to handle it for literally a decade through, you're talking about through a lot of, the economy's been mostly good, but you're talking about dips and dives. Their stock has absolutely plummeted thus far, and after hours, it's fallen at this point nearly 25%. And so far this year, their stock has been down nearly 40%. So they're feeling it, and competition in the market. What ends up happening? Well, normally, you and I, the consumer, get the best product possible. So we'll wait and see what impact this has.
Very good. All right. Do we have time for anything else, or are we about done here?
If you want to highlight another thing, you're more than welcome to. Whatever you got.
All right. Well, let's talk about one other thing on Netflix. They're going to be releasing. Remember, they've been kind of going into this game section now with mobile gaming. And they're going to be releasing a new first-person shooter called Into the Dead 2. And this is going to be, I assume, on mobile platforms.
That's where they've been in the past.
Yeah, Android, iOS devices, maybe. I'm not sure where else. I think that for them to have just a mobile app type of thing, I don't think it's going to be a big. They can get the same thing just by advertising an app inside of their. When it's a show or something, and get a bunch of people to show up to it. I don't think it's going to be a big thing because most of these games so far are very, very. I don't know how to say it. There's not a lot of depth to them. The ones that I've seen, they look like very simple mobile games. Yeah, there's very simple mobile games. I think they're going to come and go. These aren't like lasting games, but I think they're more of a, hey, this is a show that's a hit right now. Let's toss out a game for it, get some people interested, cross advertising and everything else, and then go from there. I don't know if this is going to be a big moneymaker for them, but they say there are no advertisements and no additional fees or in-app purchases options.
I don't know. I don't know why Netflix would even want to be in this marketplace.
Especially when they're not charging for these if you have a subscription.
And I don't know. I've never heard of a single person that's even talked about this, let alone played it.
Yeah. It just seems like they're kind of starting in a weird place, but they're kind of making little games here and there. But none of them have stood out and been, okay, here's a cool new game on Android or iOS. There's been all little silly ones. So we'll see when. I'm more interested with The Witcher. That's Netflix, right? The Witcher is on Netflix. Okay, when start doing the mobile games there, make real ones. I just don't know if they're going to get to the level of making something that's Witcher level of a game.
Yeah.
So,
very true.
All right. Are we good? Or is there anything else you wanted to cover? The other ones are a little bit bigger.
No, topics, I think we're good to go.
All right, cool. Well, if you want to find me, you can find me at Brian Aldridge on Gab, Parler, Getter, and whatever else becomes open and free later. Or biteoftech.com for my blog. If you want to check out our website, infectionpodcast.com, make sure you go to the right-hand side there where it says to join our server on Discord. If you do that, it's a free app. They have a web-based desktop app, mobile app, and you can go in there and submit news to our news channel. You can come join one of our 10 ARC servers that we have available. A lot of different things that you can do in Discord. If you want to watch the show, you can do that to Twitch, YouTube, BitChute, or DLive. If you want to listen to the show, you can do that after the show's been recorded and uploaded, and that's through whatever kind of device or platform. Lower right-hand side, we got a lot of different ways that you can listen to the show. If you're going to be listening to the show, make sure you go to the episode show notes for that particular episode, and there's links, videos, all kinds of things that you can refer to if you're listening, or a built-in audio and video player so you can listen to it or watch it right there. If you want to support the show, of course, up top, we got the support option in the menu, or infectionpodcast.com/support, where I encourage you to go check out the Prime Gaming subs, Humble Bundle, lots of different things that you can do for supporting the show. We thank you for that.
Yes, and we thank you very much, Brian, for everything as always, and we will talk with you next week.
Sounds good. Talk to you then.
See ya. Brian, thanks again for the time as always, and for all the work that he does here on the pre-show side, getting all of the prep ready. If you want to check out some of my antics, you can head on over to my website, nickcraig.com or nickcraig.net. You can also give me a follow on Twitter at Nicholas M. Craig. That's going to do it for another episode of Infection. If you missed any portion of the show, head on over to our website. Check out the show notes on infectionpodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.